Well, guys, today is the day. Today is the day I have been working for over 2 years. I'm going to put my Woodmizer LT 70 sawmill into its new home in my sawmill shed. And it's just a roof right now. I will be boxing it in as time goes on. But man, I'm excited. I have worked and worked and worked for this moment. And building a business, which I'm going to do a video on that separately, so you'll be seeing that coming up. But building a business is an extremely hard thing to do, and if you're doing it on your own without having already a lot of capital that you can put into it, it's near impossible. So but I'll be doing a video on that coming up. Well, one good thing about where the saw shed is, the wind blows like crazy up here on the hill, as you can tell by the tops. Look at the tops of those trees. But down here under this hill, it's just a breeze, just a gentle breeze. So that's a good thing right now, but that'll stink in the summer when you're dying for a breath of fresh air. One thing that I did to help moving the sawmill around the log yard a little bit easier is I torched a hole in the tip of one of the forks on my tractor and also my forklift, so I can move this sawmill around with the forklift or the tractor. And I mainly did that when I was working early on. I didn't have a good place to put the mill, and when I set it up, I'd have to set it up in places here at home where I couldn't really get the pickup in and out. I had to like twist it out and push it out one thing after another with the sawmill. But let's get her hooked up and get it into the shed. All right, one little secret about setting up Woodmizer towable sawmills like this one right here. If you watch videos on YouTube, and I'm sure you do because you're watching this one, right? You see a lot of people carry a level with them, and they're leveling the mill and trying to get it just as level as they can. When you've got a 4-post mill or a 2-post mill, which means that there's 2 rails that the head of the mill is running up and down on, that's important, because if one rail is not parallel with the other rail, you're going to start sawing twists and lumber eventually, and you got to constantly keep up with that. One thing that I love about Woodmizer sawmills is it's on that one monorail on the back. About to lose a pin. This rail right here. The whole head travels up and down that rail. It don't really matter if the sawmill is like this. I mean, obviously you don't want to be sawing logs when it's like a really steep angle, because when you load big logs on it, you could turn the sawmill over. But it's not critical to the production of lumber, because the head's going to be going up and down this one rail here, and the blade's parallel with the bed, so that doesn't really matter that much. Now this way, it matters more, but it doesn't have to be perfectly level. And the reason why it matters more and it doesn't have to be perfectly level is because you can saw with this sawmill and it not be level, as long as when you turn loose of the controls, the head, which is all this up here and all this down here, the head doesn't try to run to the back, or it doesn't try to run to the front. In fact, some sawyers like to set their mill up with the front downhill just a hair. That way the blade is not creeping into the end of the log. Now, personally, I try to set it up as level as I can, but I don't go crazy about it. And that's why I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you. Never seen it in a instruction booklet. I've owned 2 of these mills. My first one was a LT50, this is LT70. When I picked both mills up, I picked them both up at the same place. The guys never told me a thing about it. I've never heard about it. Nobody never told me. I just kind of figured it out. On the coolant tank, and I run diesel fuel in my coolant tank. That's a topic for another discussion. But I've always wondered what's these notches molded into this tank for. And finally I figured it out. That's a level. That's for you to level your mill by. And depending on how much fluid is in the tank, you just kind of look at that notch. If the fluid level was here, you'd look at these 2 notches. Now, if you can tell, the fluid's just barely up on this notch, and it's up about halfway on that notch. That means the head of the mill is a little bit low on this end. I call this the head, and I call that the tail. So when I go to set it up in a few minutes, I'll set the mill up. What I do is when I run my jack stands down, I'll take that head and I'll just run it back and forward, back and forward, back and forward about 10 times, and let that weight kind of pack the jack stands down, because once you do that, you'll find you got to tighten them back up. But once you do that a time or 2 and tighten your jack stands up, you can tighten them up to where that water line in the coolant tank is equal on those little molded squares, and that's your level. Okay, I put my front jack stand down and cranked it down tight to the ground and started putting some pressure on it to the coolant level is equally on those notches. And it's probably down in the head just a little bit, but it's okay for right now. Then I dropped the back jack. So I just let it like right now, it's about 1 inch off the ground. Put the pin in it and jack it down snug. Now, if you're doing portable work, which I used to do portable work, There's all kinds of situations you're going to run into. I have actually had to been on stuff that was so unlevel. I've had to jack this jack down, and I still do it because it's actually easier. I have jacked that jack down so I could pick the head of the sawmill up enough to where I could get it off of the truck ball, and then this front jack would be up in the jack housing far enough to let the head back down to where it would be level enough to even saw with. I've sawed where that front jack was up as far as it would go and have blocks of wood under it, and I don't like doing that, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But the next step, actually what I do, I don't put any of the rest of the stands down. This is where it starts deviating from Woodmizer. I find it's better to go ahead and fold the arms down, get the mill head up. I pull the mill head back and I center it in between this jack stand and this jack stand as much as I possibly can. I want that mill head is centered right between those two jack stands as much as I can. Then what I do is I take those 4 jack stands, this one here and this one here and the 2 right across on the other side of the mill opposite of it, and I jack all those down good and tight, and that's where I get the mill exactly level this way and exactly level that way, or close to level. Once that's done, I jack the front jack stand down snug to the ground, but I don't really try to pick it up. I want the majority of that weight on those 4 right there. I do the same thing to the back. And for the first 2 or 3 logs, you're going to have to go around and tighten them up, because it's going to walk back and forward, and depending on the soil you're on, this is hard clay soil here in North Carolina. It packs like a concrete. So I don't think I'll have much issue there, but we'll start doing that in just a minute. Okay, I'm getting ready to start the mill, and you'll see me raise the head up, and then I will lay the loading arms down. I'll have to walk over there to unchain it, and then I will walk around and start setting those 4 jacks down. Now, one thing about a LT70, when you buy the mill, it comes with a off-feed table. It's the only portable mill that Woodmizer makes that off-feed table comes with it. And I'm talking about that one right there that says Woodmizer. The phone's adjusting on my finger and not the table, but see right there where it says Woodmizer, that's the off-feed table. Now, I'll make some video here and show you guys some things that I've done to it. When this come with the sawmill, I hated the way that they built that. It was just, in my opinion, pure junk. And I have redone mine. But also, I have built a roller extension to come off that table. Now, anybody that has set one of these mills up knows that table is very heavy and it's awkward and it's very hard to set up, or I think it is. So I made a way to offload mine by using the sawmill, and I'll show you that right now. As you can see, that's a heck of a lot easier than the way that Woodmizer has it built for an LT70. You got a handle built on the end of the outfeed table right here, but that handle, it's only good to drag it forward. And then you got another handle here, and when you grab a hold of it, that corner over there wants to fall down, and it is very, very aggravating the way that it's done. So I engineered this, come up with this little system here. I had this roller table. It had a cross brace welded from this leg to this leg. I cut it out and I put a brace in like this and bent it. So when it's up on the outfeed table, it will just slide right up in there. Also, I had some extra rollers and I welded 3 on the bottom. You can see one right there. So to get this off, it's just roll it forward and roll it off and hook it up. and that makes it a whole lot nicer to try to set this sawmill up. These brackets here, right here, this piece of channel lays in it, and that's what holds the roller table onto the outfeed table. The legs of the outfeed table was still up a little bit too high. They need to be flush so when you drag your lumber back, it's not going to be catching on these things. So I just pulled the head of the mill back down, hooked the chains back to it, picked it up a little bit where I could get the legs down to where I wanted it to be. Now all you got to do is grab this table, roll it right off. Now, for this thing to properly work, this cutout right here needs to be around that leg. So let's get it right, and then we'll drag it right off, and it'll fall right in those saddles. Okay, going back to something I was talking about a few minutes ago with these legs on the dust chute side. This is the one closest to the end on the dust chute side of the mill. One thing that Woodmizer could do that would really help here is to weld some kind of a ring on this. So those who do extend it out, when they're trying to pull that up, you could take a hookaroo or a pickaroo, whatever you want to call it, and hook it into that and pull it up. There's nowhere to get a hold of it. And if it's covered up with sawdust this deep, you're having to shovel it out. And to me, that's a little bit, for a $75,000, $80,000 sawmill, that should be thought of. But anyway, this is what I do. I cut me a 6x6 block. Then, instead of having the leg extended out of the tube that comes down, I leave it all the way up. This is really awkward to me to get in here and try to hold that and do that kind of stuff. But pull it all the way up. Set your block under it. Jack the leg down to that block. Just like that. Then that way, if I want to move this sawmill, instead of having to dig around and find the bottom of that foot, and especially if there's sawdust, I've had this thing to where there was sawdust built all the way up to the bottom of that track doing portable work. If there's a lot of sawdust, you can't hardly get in there. It's actually kind of tight. But if you do it like this, you can just jack the leg up all the way. It's already in the extension, and once it goes up, you're done. You use the jack to do all the lifting. So I do that on that jack, and I also do it on the one right there, that jack there. And in fact, this one is harder to get to than the one we just put the block on back here. And the reason why, back here you don't have this energy track in the way. This one up here is really aggravating. Now I'm going to pull the sawmill up and center it right in between those two center jacks on this one side, and then I'll go around the two on this side in the middle and the two on this side in the middle and jack them all down really good and tight and level the mill. Okay, I've started jacking this leg down. Let me show you how much I put on it. Trying to get you I'm not real sure how I'm gonna do this. If you can actually see the top of this, maybe in relation to that bank over there, and be able to hold the phone still. All right, it's touching the ground right there. I go maybe a half or to 3/4 of a turn, and that's all I put on it. There we go. It's set up, ready to start milling. Now, if I was doing this without video recording it, I can do all that in about 15 minutes, something like that. And if you do it this way, and after you cut a log or two, go back and check the jacks, because they're going to walk in a little bit. They're going to pack the dirt in, especially if you're in soft ground. And if you are in soft ground, you need to cut you like a 12x12 block and put under the jack legs. But if you do it like this, you'll cut good lumber. Okay, folks, that's the end for this video. I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, and more importantly, share it. Share it to people that you know, people that may work for themselves, who has the same crazy days that I have. But thank you very much for watching. Be sure to go out and fix something. Have a great day.